Hi everyone, welcome to Happy Hour by Hall, Walt, and BACA Wines. I'm your host, Jennifer Brown, Vintner at BACA Wines. I'm thrilled to be here with you today. We have an awesome guest. Rachel Roy is joining us in just a minute. Before she does, let me tell you what's going on in our neck of the woods in wine country. Yesterday we brought in our last grapes because harvest season is coming to an end, although not quite yet. Now, after we brought all the grapes in, we're focusing on making those grapes into wine. So we're fermenting them in tank or in barrel, and then slowly moving all that wine into barrel to age for somewhere between 10 months to 2 years, depending on what wine it is. It's an exciting time in wine country. If you want to come visit us, you will smell the scent of wine in the air all around Napa and Sonoma. It's a wonderful time to come visit us, and we would love to host you at any of our properties. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce Rachel Roy. She is a humanitarian, an entrepreneur, and a very well-respected fashion and jewelry designer. She has worked on so many different projects that I'm sure you are well aware of, but I'm super excited to talk to her today to get a little bit more insight into her creative process, as well as hearing more about some of her recent developments.
Hi.
Hey, Rachel. How's it going?
Here.
Thank you.
Going well, thank you. Yeah, I'm here for the wine and to learn how to make wine and which wines are the best, but we can swap information.
That sounds perfect. A little tit for tat. That's perfect. Something that I have just really wanted to know for you that probably blends both of our skill set, fashion and wine, is what would you say is like the perfect wine country outfit? So many people ask me this, what they should pack when they come out to wine country, and frankly, I don't know what to tell them. So I'd love an expert's advice.
I'm sure you do. But so I grew up in Monterey, California, and Northern California kind of has this very balmy weather of it can be foggy, even when the sun's out, it can still be chilly, but it's absolutely beautiful and usually a very crisp light. Like natural light. And so you want your sweaters, but you want your layers. So yes. I love a sweater in a cardigan form. You do just a really pretty lacy cami if you're doing the wine tasting at night with your cardigan. It's just that idea that you'll be warm, but you'll also be sexy. I love that either with slacks so you're comfortable. So if you tend to like really go deep into the wine tasting, so you can be really comfortable. But I'm someone that really believes in you dress to participate for whatever your host is doing. I think it's showing a sign of respect, actually. So if someone took so much work and so much care to prepare something for me, I think I should show up with the same amount of care for them. And so that's how I would view going wine tasting. If it's during the day, like a nice long skirt or a long dress, belt, maybe cowboy boots underneath, really cowboy hat. Always do your cardi or your blazer over your shoulders because
without putting your arms through.
Without putting your arms through for the picture. I mean, not always, but
for warmth you can later.
It's just that idea of okay, you can have any silhouette underneath, and I do love a cowboy boot if it's daytime and you're like walking around and you're really getting in there.
Yeah.
And yet a blazer or a really nice cardigan can kind of make the outfit more formal for when you go inside.
And when you're putting an outfit together, do you like to think about one statement piece, or are you starting with the whole look?
I start with one piece.
Okay.
So I start with, and it's like that for anything. It's like that for makeup. It's like that for jewelry, and it's like that for clothing.
Okay.
What do I really want to wear? Do I have a new pair of cowboy boots? Well, yes, I actually do. So I like to start more. So, that's how I do it. And that's tonight, later tonight, my older daughter, Eva, is going on a trip and she's like, Mom, will you help me pack? So that's how I'm teaching her, like, what is it that you really want to wear?
Perfect.
And then I'll pull in the pieces for you. So that's same thing with your.
You would probably hate how I pack, Rachel, because I'm like, okay, what do I need? And I throw a bunch of different things in my suitcase without actually planning the outfit.
I do. I really do. But think about how much better you'll feel if you do this. Only pack things that you love.
Mm-hmm.
Don't pack things that you don't even ever wear at home.
Yeah.
So I have those, however many pieces there are, like, 7 to like 10 things that I just feel good in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all you should pack. You just want the things that make you feel the best, make you feel the smartest, the prettiest, whatever you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, what I've learned, actually, Anna Wintour does this. She wears the same thing over and over and over. But
Really?
yeah. So if you go, I'm sorry, my dog is crying. Come here. Okay. If you go through her pictures, you will see they're usually Manila Blahnik, and she'll wear them over and over and over. And good for her. She should. She's a fashion leader, and she's teaching us that we can as well. But it's usually a very well-made piece that fits you really well. And you can wear it over and over because you look great in it. And why it's also just an age of it doesn't feel good to have a lot of extra stuff.
I love your Marie Kondo approach to like your life, because I think it's true. Like whether you're packing or whether you have it in a closet, life's too short to have anything that you don't love, right?
It's so true. Again, with my older daughter, Ava, she's 21 and she's thinking about an apartment or this type of car. I'm like, sweetheart, you love to travel. Why are you tethering yourself to all these bills? Like, live with me until you know what you're doing. She has one more year in school. Or
you're like, live with me forever.
Live with me forever. You're serious, like Grey Gardens. But I love the idea of not tethering yourself to anything until you really have to.
Mm-hmm.
And having that freedom to go and work where you want to work, visit who you want to visit, and not building up all these bills that are just overwhelming you.
Totally. I think that's great advice.
Mostly off topic.
I do want to ask you about jewelry style. Oh, cheers. Cheers.
Cheers. I love this. Thank you so much for having me. I wanted to share with our viewers that whenever I go to a new city, especially if it's a small city, I'll go to a Goodwill or whatever we can find that's secondhand. And so these I found literally for $1.
And where did you where did you find them?
These are from Sedona. So I bring my girls so that they can start learning how to do this as well. You would never believe the treasures that are in there.
I love that.
Yeah. And it's wonderful to have just that access to things that no one else will have, because literally, it's secondhand, but it's a wonderful way to enjoy a beautiful bottle of wine.
I agree. I think how wonderful when you look at the wine or your glass to also have that memory of where you bought it, and you can feel proud of the purchase and also the look of it. That's so nice. Oh yes. So for those of you guys at home, we are drinking our Cat's Cradles in Zinfandel.
Can you tell me a little bit about it? I just honestly don't know a lot about wine or and what makes it good versus what makes it bad.
Well, you've come to the right place. So I think, first of all, taking a step back, any wine can be good if you enjoy it. What I like about a wine is I like wines that come from a place usually. So the more specific the place is, I think generally I appreciate it more, because wine is really this incredible thing that when it was bottled, it captures this one moment in time of where the grapes came from, what the weather was like, what the smells in the air were like. All these other influences really affect it. And when you blend like too many different vineyards or places together, sometimes you can lose that. And this wine comes from a really special place called Rockpile in Sonoma County that's very high in elevation. It's got rocky soils. And you were saying something earlier about how having one statement piece, whether in makeup or in your outfit, really makes a difference. And I think that's true too with wine sometimes, is usually there's one thing that stands out about a wine. And I think for me, for this wine, there's what you call a mineral quality to this wine, which comes from that rocky soil. Mineral may not sound like it's something that you're going for in wine, but actually it's a very refined characteristic in wine. And it's usually a flavor that you can't put your finger on necessarily, but it's something a little bit different. It can have sort of like a dark clay taste to it or more of like a stone characteristic. But this area is just a very special rocky soil area, and I love the flavor that it imparts on it.
I honestly get that so clearly the way you
Oh,
describe
thank you.
it, because I'm now, and for the past year or so, I have been designing with gemstones, colored gemstones.
Mm-hmm.
But what people sometimes don't realize, gemstones are minerals, so they're crystals.
Yes.
And another thing we don't really realize is how, just what a plethora of minerals we have under the earth. So minerals, crystals, gemstones, it's all kind of the same thing.
Totally.
Literally growing them. And
Oh,
so,
and we have a picture here of some of your gemstones too.
oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. But to hear that the wine and the taste of it is affected by these minerals, to me, that's so fascinating because we're going back thousands and thousands
Yes.
of years that these things have been baking in there through history and through time. And so when you describe it like that, it makes perfect sense to me. And there is a big crystal, mineral, and gemstone network out there of people that are just loving these things. And so it's interesting the connection it has to wine that I've never realized before.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that either, but it's true because you're owning a piece of the earth, of the history. And I also think that, I don't know what you think, I know you're into Ayurveda and other practices like that, but I find gemstones to be very calming and they can give off energy, you know?
100%. I mean, we have nothing to do with making it. So you take what you take that was cultivated around these minerals and gemstones, and then you go on to process something else. Similar to me, I'll make it into a shape that I feel is wearable. But the base of it, the baseline of it, had nothing to do with me. Like it was, Earth's creation.
Yeah.
And it took so long to create. When I hear that, I just have so much respect for that process. And it's interesting because it's a very, it's a full wine, but it's also smooth. And this is coming from someone that doesn't know a thing about wine, but it's there's no aftertaste. So
yes.
Sometimes when I have, okay, this is embarrassing, but say you're on an airplane and it's not the best thing in the world. You want it because you want to go to sleep or whatever. And there's that, that taste in your mouth. This is so smooth and beautiful. I can imagine having like a favorite cheese with it. But will you tell me what really you're
absolutely
with this?
Yeah.
It's called Cat's Cradle.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. We really do pride us on the fact that it's got a smooth finish and it's smooth, and I do have something to say about that. But in terms of pairings, I think for me a perfect pairing for this wine is a beautiful. I mean, I'm a vegetarian, so but I love like pasta with a really beautiful tomato, basil, maybe some Parmesan cheese on top, just a really rich sauce. Yeah. I think this wine pairs really beautifully with like mouth-watering foods. And because it's high in acid is a great sort of partner to food in general, that it enhances the flavor of the food.
Oh,
why is that?
Enhances the flavor of food?
I don't know. I don't know why it is. I mean, there's obviously on the pH scale, you have like super acidic, medium, low acidic. If you had something that's super acidic, like a lemon, for example, that wouldn't really taste good with certain foods. But the acid basically ups the freshness of the food and can bring out, well, I guess when you're cooking, if you squeeze sometimes acids into a food, it can enhance qualities of it. And it's similar with wine.
So that makes perfect sense. So you're saying like a salt, basically.
Like a salt, yeah.
I totally get it. But how, as a consumer, would I know what wines to pair if I'm not in a wine shop with someone that I can ask? Because when you read online, like this goes with fish or this, it's so general. So is that something that you just have to study before you know, or can you be general like that?
I think you can be general with varietals. So a varietal like Zinfandel is pretty versatile with what it pairs with. You can drink Zinfandel by itself or with something light or with something big. Some wines like a Cabernet, it's pretty hard to drink a Cabernet by itself. You can, but generally speaking, people want something that's really rich with it. So I try to think about a richness of a wine and what that pairs with. So lighter wines like a white wine or a rosé are really good pairings with light foods. And then a medium-bodied wine like a Zinfandel can pair with a wider range of things. And then a really rich wine like a Cabernet pairs best with really rich things.
That's so helpful to hear.
Thank
Really,
you.
you do this every day, so it's probably like second nature. But it is very helpful to hear, and I still feel like I need to print out a list.
I know. Well, that's the truth. The truth is, I think there's so much to know about wine, and you can never know. And even if something is labeled a Zinfandel or a Cabernet, it could be a really light Zinfandel or a really light Cabernet. You don't know until you try it. But I think that's what's so fun about wine is every time you open the bottle, it could be, um, the pleasure is in enjoying it in the moment. So it's a nice surprise.
How long is red wine supposed to be open? So
Hmm.
should I just, well, 20 minutes ago opened it. Should I have opened it much sooner and then wait before I pour it?
It depends. A wine, I think this wine you can open right away. I think the bigger a wine is, the more you want to decant it and open it. Taking the taking the cork out actually doesn't do much by itself. So if you really wanted to aerate it, you'd have to pour it into a decanter or something else.
Okay.
Because decanting, it's really all about mixing oxygen with all the wine. So when you open the cork, it just aerates that top part, so it doesn't do a whole lot.
That's good to know. Wow.
But I think for this one, you don't have to decant it. It's nice to, but not necessary.
Well, I'm glad to know that. I always, I see those beautiful, I actually have one and have never used it because it's almost just like it's the second beautiful step.
Yes.
That I didn't know.
But I think, not a great example with your plain example, but if there's a wine that you taste and you think, oh gosh, this is super tannic, it's a little bitter maybe, a little tight, that's a perfect time to take out the decanter and pour it in.
Oh, really?
Because the longer a wine interacts with oxygen, the softer that it gets.
So all my airplane little bottles of wine, if I order it in the beginning of the flight and then just let them open for like a long flight, by the end it might actually be good.
It might be good. It might be good. It depends. It depends, but it might be good.
Yeah, I'll have to try that. I'll let you know.
Yeah, you should. I have so many questions for you about and that's my daughter actually coming in the door. I was telling you earlier, Rachel, that I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and sometimes they make surprise appearances.
They do, or dogs that want to leave the room while you're filming live.
What's your dog's name?
Ava, again, my older daughter, named Delphine about 10 or 12 years ago, Delphine, because she loves dolphins. Little bit until a French friend came over. That is not how you say dolphin in French.
It's dauphin, I think, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. But the name stuck, and she's very sweet. She's Maltese and poodle mix.
Oh, she's adorable. Adorable.
Keep going, and we'll get her next time. Not today.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I could go down to get her. Yeah, next time.
Okay.
She wouldn't sit on my lap quite as quietly as Delphine would. So, but I would love to know about your creative process. So I know you talked a little bit about your inspiration for putting outfits together and dressing, but when you're designing a clothing line or jewelry, do you start with a muse in mind or a person in mind? Like, what is your process of creating something?
That's a good question. And for the most part, it's all the same.
Okay.
I had big collections that I was doing for mid-sized department stores. So that would be like a Macy's. They needed delivery every single month.
Mm-hmm.
And so that creative process is a little different, unfortunately, than just saying, I'm going to design some really pretty jewelry and not have all of those, expectations at the end of it. But for the most part, it's about the same. So I start with colors and prints first if I'm doing.
Oh, okay.
And it's 100% just based on what feels right. And it's the one area that I actually don't question myself. And I think a lot of other designers feel that way too, that I've talked to. It's interesting, like economists also have that. My uncle is a professor of economy, and he can just kind of feel what's happening in our society and other societies based on how money is spent. And it's interesting that retail, or when you create something to sell at retail, you're doing the same thing. You're feeling what someone might need next based on what's going on in the world. So for me, that's how I designed especially when I was designing the secondary line, because it's women now that don't have a ton of money, and yeah, they still want to shop, 12 different newness items a year. And so I do really stop to think about what does she need and what's easy for her. But the fun part is colors, prints, shapes always go in last, because for me a shape is based on a print. If a print is too loud or you don't want to wear it in these shapes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and literally start with a vision board. And I do this for a lot of things in my life, not just designing actual pieces, but I just put up, what would I like to see in 6 months or 3 months or whenever this will be done? How do I want to feel is also very important, because I'm so connected with my customer, because I am her at all different stages of her life. I was her, or I'm hoping to be her. And so I just consider myself the consumer. I want to look a certain way. I want to look put together. I want to look smart, but I also want to look feminine. To me, feminine and sexy are the same thing. I want to look thinner. I want what she wants. And so that part I never really worry about. It's the, how am I going to give it to her so that she understands it? Because I've been working with it for so long. I know what the silhouettes go with and what's flattering on a taller shape or a shorter shape or a rounder shape. She doesn't. And so for me, it's important to make those steps really easy for her. With everything, with jewelry, it could seem so easy to me or people that work in the industry, but if you're a doctor, if you're a stay-at-home mom, you're not thinking about this all day long, right? It's like the same with the wine. You know specifically what these things go with, but when we're grabbing dinner, I'd like to know. I don't want to just like have it in my notes on my phone.
Right.
Be able to check it. And so I do try to give that to my customer as well, but it does start with a vision board, and I think about all those things.
I love that, because I think so often what's hard for me, if I buy a shirt or pants, I don't know how to complete the look. So to have the tips on how to put something, the whole look together, I think would be incredibly helpful.
It's incredibly helpful. And then I also tell my customers, you should keep rebuying either in new colors or slightly new versions of whatever you pack. Because when you're packing, we all hate to pack. We wait till the very last minute.
Definitely.
Then we just put in the things that we love, that we know we look really good in. And why do we need much else? We just need more versions of that. They make us look our best, if it's for an interview or for a wedding or for just, strolling around wherever you're on vacation. You just pick what you feel the best in. And so that's one way to start eliminating what you don't really need in your closet and adding to it in ways that you will really find benefit out of.
I love that. And are you a fan of the capsule wardrobe, where you just have a few pieces that you can build off of?
If I were someone like Michael Kors, so the visual I want you to have is black blazer, black t-shirt, white jeans, and Ray-Bans, black colors. So that's his look. You pretty much will always see him on that. Even if he's on a television show, he'll come in slightly different versions of that. If you're someone like him that likes his look, he likes his uniform, then yes, a capsule is for you. If you're someone that likes to express how you are feeling or how you want to feel, which is something that I do a lot with clothing, I might wake up on the wrong side of the bed, but I put this, just got a new Isabel Marant bright yellow sweater with really big shoulders. But I buy everything on Yoox, which I should also tell you about. It's a discount website.
What's it called?
YOOX.
Okay. Yoox.
And now it's owned by the same company as Net-a-Porter, but originally for many years it was just designers discounted clothes. So they're not going to really show you how to wear it necessarily, but
that's a great tip.
Blazers and everything's discounted. So I'll pick that bright yellow if I want to change my mood. I'm more classic with a twist, so you will find tons of classics in my closet, but I do like the option to have those pops of surprise. I'm not willing to give that up. Someone that likes his uniform, like a Michael Kors, or there's women that are like that as well, then that works for them. It's about what makes you feel the best, right?
I love that.
What's going to give us the best version of ourselves? That's all that really matters.
Well, I love your focus on what makes a woman feel great, whereas I think so much of marketing around fashion for so many years is about how you should look to impress other people, or what society
You're
thinks you
not
should look
wrong.
like.
You're not wrong. I mean, if you think back to like those Cosmopolitan article titles, even it was
Mhm.
like the right blue to get the guy, or you know what I mean? Like,
Yes, yes.
it's all about polka dots. That used to annoy me. Like, why is it all about polka dots? It doesn't have to be. You know, we all love Pretty Women. Pretty Woman. We love that brown polka dot dress she wore when she was
Yes.
right. So
She looked
it's
beautiful.
moments like that, like explain to me why I might like polka dot. Maybe it's classic. Maybe I want something like Princess Diana wore. But I mean, that's how those magazines sold month after month after month by telling us we needed the new thing. And I never agreed with that. I still don't. But you know, magazines really don't exist anymore. So we're not hearing it in the same way.
They're in different forms now.
Yes, they are all
Um,
digital.
One thing I definitely wanted to ask you about is you mentioned it earlier, but something that's important to you is that you like to design your life for what you want to be like. And you mentioned it earlier, you know, dress for how you want to feel. Can you talk about your experience with vision boarding, and
Yeah.
not just for your work, but for your life? What kind of role does that play in your life?
Well, that's a great question because it started with work, and that's where I learned it originally, but then it transitioned into life.
Hmm.
So as I was in a corner office in Manhattan, we almost had the entire floor of a huge building. I wasn't feeling satisfied. I wasn't
Hmm.
feeling like this is it for me.
Hmm.
And, you know, there's a beautiful view, and I loved what I was doing, but I knew I needed nature. And
Hmm.
so I started visioning, I started making a vision board for myself at home in private. And I just put up things that I loved. And I noticed, okay, this is starting to look a lot like you're about to live by the ocean somewhere. And within, it took about 3 years, it doesn't always happen quickly. I moved. I just up and moved. I actually bought my house online. I just,
Did you really?
yeah, I hadn't even seen it. I flew out to California twice with Ava. This is about 8 years ago, and was outbid on the houses that I liked. And by the third one, I was like, let's just take it. It's in the right price. I'd never seen the neighborhood. I'd never been there before. But when your heart is calling for something, we as women have taught to live in such a polite society, to be all of these things. Like my slogan for my charity is kindness is always fashionable. And it
I
is,
love that slogan.
but we have to be kind to ourselves. And at 47, I was not necessarily taught that by my parents because they came from a generation in the 50s of you stay quiet and you just deal and you have inner rage, but no one has to know. And you know, I laugh when I say that, but it's true. So, you know, yes, how can we be kind to ourselves without raising a bunch of spoiled kids that think their opinion is right because they're being kind to themselves? So it's still a balance, but be kind to yourself and then listen to yourself, because I sometimes ask my kids, like, when you have a thought, who do you think is talking to you? Someone's talking to you and you don't hear anything. You hear it here and you hear it here. Who do you think that is? So if you don't believe in God, that's fine. Then do you believe in a spirit or a soul or a universe or whatever you want to call it? But something's talking to you, and that's your voice that will protect you when you're on a dark street or you're at a bar and you know someone's talking to you too much. You don't have to be polite in those moments. And having the strength to know the difference between politeness, don't be rude, don't be entitled, like a lot of kids that I see can but that's because that's how we raise them also, to kind of, it's a whole other subject. And then to listen to yourself and be kind to yourself. And so yeah, that's part of why I was just like, let's just take the house. I got to get out of here.
Good for you. I think,
Yeah.
well, just like how you advise your children, listening to your inner wisdom to do what some part of you knows is best, even if it doesn't make sense,
Perfect.
logical sense right in the moment.
Yes.
But you knew it was for some higher good. And it
And
sounds like you're really happy in Los Angeles where you are.
they are. So my tribe is New York. That's where my friends are. There's like super hardworking people, and I really like those, that kind of mentality.
Are you saying Californians aren't hardworking, Rachel?
I was born in California, so I
know. You can say it.
But like, for example, my younger daughter Tallulah, when I left New York, she wasn't talking. and she was very fearful. And I just knew changes needed to be made. Ava's pretty cool, so there's not a lot that she needed help with, but I'm exaggerating. She of course did, but like for my kids, they just needed space and sunshine and more activities than I was able to give them at that time. And then, mom can move where my next vision board is that I'm currently making, actually.
Oh, that's exciting. Gosh, this has gone by so fast, Rachel. I know we had said it would go by fast.
Wait, I haven't even heard how you make this, and that's important.
I'll tell you real quick how we make this. So I feel like your life is so much more interesting, but let me tell you. So
we're here for the wine.
Okay, you're right. We're here for the wine. So this comes from this remote vineyard in the Rockpile region. I call it Cat's Cradle. All of our wines are named after games at BACA. Games have been a big part of my family since I was a kid. Every Christmas, we always play games. It's just such a joyful part of life, and I wanted to name our wines, after game names, just to remind people to have joy in their life.
So it's called Cat's Cradle, and that's how it got
the game. Yeah, I call it that because of the game, and also I don't know if you've played Cat's Cradle before, but it's a string game, but it requires teamwork. It requires two people to actually make it, and this is a difficult vineyard to farm. It's very remote. It's very steep. In fact, when I was pregnant, several years back, I remember I had to hold on to the vines on this vineyard so that I wouldn't fall off the side. Wow. And then on the winemaking side, it's a hard wine to make. So you were describing earlier, you like wines that are a little bit softer, a little bit more plush. And that's important to me too. And it's really hard to make a wine like this that comes with very tannic grapes in this style. And so our winemaking team, which is two women who are fabulous, Allison and Megan, we have a strong powerhouse of women in our company. They do very delicate, time intensive processes to really gently extract the flavors from these grapes so that it doesn't get that tannic, like super sharp flavor from this wine. And I think what you get is this really beautiful teamwork from the vineyard side, the winemaking side, to make it a beautiful, elegant wine that I love so much. So
thank you for not cutting corners with it, because it really does. It's interesting because if it was a wine connoisseur, I'm sure they would, have the exact right way to describe it. But from a consumer standpoint, it's just so smooth. It's something I would be proud to give as a gift. So I never know, like, what do I pick to give as a gift? Because if it's a crap bottle, they're going to think you're being cheap or something. It's just beautiful. It tastes rich without being like obnoxiously rich. It's just smooth and light.
Thank you.
Is it a medium body, would you call it?
Yeah, exactly. Medium body. Thank you.
Really, really beautiful.
Well, I would be amiss if I didn't ask you about your jewelry line. Can you tell everyone where they can find your jewelry pieces?
Yeah, so about a year ago, I got really into going to all our national parks during COVID.
Oh, I love that.
Then that led me to backcountry, and backcountry, it's just places where there's like dry wash, where rivers no longer run through. And that's where you can really find gemstones, because over thousands of years, water has pushed things. So I'll find shells in the middle of Colorado that were from the ocean. And so it just really got me like fascinated. So this is a green amethyst.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's surrounded by citrine, and then the top is white zircon. And white zircon is a stone that I'm like, is that cubic zirconia? What is that? It's actually a natural stone. It's a really nice replacement to diamond because it's not as expensive.
It's gorgeous.
We're able to charge really affordable prices. So that's like a little crown shape. Oops.
Love that.
There we are. But yeah, I have so much fun with it. And I also like the idea of gold plating because then it's cheaper and more affordable.
Right.
So this is like maybe under $200 for real green amethyst.
That's an amazing price for what you're getting. Wow.
Thank you. Yeah, and like these guys. So this is the green amethyst that matches the ring, and again under $200. And this is which way maybe I'll go that way. So this is white zircon also. I have two bands on here, but under $200 because I don't need to use gold all the way around. I mean, if you're going for your wedding piece or something, you can. But for these fun pieces that are 100% natural stones, I thought, why not make them more accessible but still super elegant?
I love that, and making it, just like you said, accessible to so many more people to be able to wear that. I'm excited to wear those myself. I've got to go and buy some. Where can you purchase?
On my website. And
Okay.
I also have several shows a year on jewelry television where I'm selling them with their hosts that are phenomenal. And I'm just explaining why I designed it, what these stones are. I mean, I'm learning some of them as I go, but I figure other people don't know all of them as well. And yeah, I just make them as well priced as we can.
Oh, I'm excited to check it out. I'm sure everyone else is too. And then I heard a rumblings of another project that you're working on coming out soon.
Yeah. So I, during COVID, I pivoted also into beauty. So I'm half Indian, and Indian practices have always been very important to me and wrapped up in my life. But I'm working on skincare that is luxury Ayurvedic skincare
Love
mixed
that.
with science. So mixed with the West, which is, excuse me, literally what I am, Indian and
Uniquely American, you could say. Yeah, yeah.
So it's ancient India recipes combined with the most modern science that we have. And I've been working on it for a long time because it is all organic and yet still really, really potent. I don't do a ton for my face. I'll share what I do, like when the website for this starts, but I just want to do skincare. I don't want to at this point like laser off my face and different options that are out there. So I wanted to get as much into these bottles as we could.
Well, that sounds really exciting. I'm excited to check that out too. You said November we can expect for
Right.
it to be out?
Hopefully next month. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm very excited for that because I think we all would love to have skin like yours.
Oh, thank you so much. That was nice
Yeah.
of you to ask.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what a pleasure, Rachel. Thank you so much for spending.
I don't believe it.
I know. Well, you're just so fascinating. I hope we can continue another conversation over another glass of wine in the future.
I will take you up on that.
Good.
Thank you for having me. I've been dying to come. So thank you
Yes.
for having me. And hopefully we'll do another one soon.
That will be really fun. Okay. All right. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Well, how fabulous. Rachel Roy just is such a plethora of information and inspiration. For those of you that don't follow Rachel on Instagram and Facebook, please do. And subscribe to us for more fabulous happy hours that we'll have in the future, just like the one today. Thank you all so much for watching, and here's to your next adventure and the wine that finds your glass. Cheers.